Greetings, church family. Last week on Thursday, May 28th, Governor Pritzker stepped back from the requirements and restrictions to which he was holding faith groups. And instead of requirements, his administration has come up with guidelines and recommendations for faith groups in a 9-page document that follows CDC protocols, which I found this document really helpful as I think about how we're going to move forward with our gatherings as a church. And with this news comes the excitement of possibility, but also the weight of responsibility. There's excitement because we can meet for worship again if we choose, but we're also responsible for making sure we do it safely since we're no longer under governmental restrictions. And as of now, we aren't able to return to the Door Township building where we normally meet because they'd like to wait until at least phase 4 of the governor's plan before letting groups back in. That's okay because meeting outside is a safer option anyway at this point. And so here's our plan. Starting this Sunday, June 7th, we're going to start holding outdoor worship gatherings at Katie's and my house. So woohoo! I'm so excited to be able to sing together again, to see your faces as we look at God's Word together, and to worship our Lord as the family of God in person. We've been continuing to worship God this whole time, doing our worship at home guides and posting in WhatsApp and the other various ways we've been worshiping as a church family. But I'm excited to be able to do it as a church family once again together. And if you've been camping with us for Memorial Day weekend in the past, these outdoor services will be very similar to that, which means it's going to be a bit more laid back and casual. They're going to be shorter, about 45 minutes long, and the sermon will be about 25 minutes, and we'll do 3 or 4 songs in there. And so come at 10 o'clock to get your stuff set up, and we'll start at 10:15 a.m., our regular service time. And please bring your own lawn chair. And we have some deck chairs for those who don't own a lawn chair, or if you just accidentally forget your own lawn chair, we have a few deck chairs you can use. But otherwise, bring your own lawn chair and come at 10 to get things set up, get situated, because you don't get to just walk in and have a bunch of chairs set up for you. Come at 10, get your stuff set up. We'll start at 10:15. And there's a good amount of shade in our yard. There's a big tree that kind of overlooks our whole yard. And there's a couple other spots that are really well shaded to sit under. But there will be a canopy tent also available if you feel like, there's just too much sun and you're kind of worried about that. If you have really little kids, you can use that canopy tent if you feel like you need to use that for some reason. And for these worship gatherings, we're going to be following all CDC guidelines and protocols. And so let me run through the guidelines we're going to be following. We'll be practicing social distancing the whole time. And so space your chairs a generous 6 feet apart. If you're coming to a worship gathering, have in your head, I'm social distancing the whole time I'm there. And we will be wearing face coverings over the nose and mouth when social distancing isn't possible. There aren't going to be any situations where I'm going to say, hey, we're all going to clump up together in a big group, so put your face masks on. There's not going to be any situations like that. But if there's ever, for some reason, you're like, I have to, for some reason, get close to somebody, put your face mask on. And this includes kids who are 2 years and older. So be ready to wear a face mask if, for some reason, social distancing isn't possible. We'll also be wearing a face covering while singing. Singing projects a ton of air, and face coverings are the safest way to engage in this activity. And you may be thinking, well, we're outside, what's the big deal? Isn't the wind kind of going to take away our breath anyway? Well, you never know what kind of breeze is going to take your breath and waft it over to somebody else. And so we want to wear face coverings to make this as safe of an activity as possible. Stay home if you've had any known exposure to COVID-19 in the past 14 days. Just stay home. Don't risk anybody else. Stay home if you've had any COVID-19-like symptoms in the past 7 days. A cough, a fever, chills, muscle pain, shortness of breath, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell. If you've had any of these symptoms in the past 7 days, stay home for everybody else's safety, because we do not want to be part of spreading COVID-19. And so here are some other details about the service. Besides just those ones. We won't be providing childcare or children's ministry at this time. I don't know when we'll start providing it. Families should stay together as a unit during the service. And small children, if you need to walk around with them, if they're just kind of restless, small children should be accompanied by an adult at all times. You shouldn't just let your kids kind of run free. So please bring your own entertainment for kids. Our usual worship gatherings, we have like a worship bag of goodies or toys that we provide, but we're not going to be providing those at this point just because that's a way to spread germs. So please bring your own things for kids. And what I'd recommend is bringing just a huge blanket from your house and use that kind of like your social distancing bubble for your family. Just set out a huge blanket and use that as a play area for your family to stay within. Throw out the huge blanket, put your chairs on it, and be like, okay, kids, like we are going to stay within this, and nobody else is going to come within it, and we're not going to leave this, and you got to stay and play within this, and that's kind of your social distancing bubble. That's what I would recommend for families with little kids. And we do have a play set, and I would be filled with so much joy to see a whole bunch of kids playing on that. But it's just not going to work to have some kids playing on there during the service while others watch from their chairs, and you just can't social distance while on that. And so we're going to flip the swings up, and we're just going to ask for nobody to use the play set while you're here. And for now, we won't be taking communion to minimize contact with each other and passing things. We're just going to figure out how to be together first before we start working on communion. And we won't pass the offering basket, but there's going to be an offering box if you would like to use that to give an offering. And I know that we all long for things to just get back to normal. We're tired of stay-at-home orders. We're tired of social distancing and masks and talking about COVID-19. And returning to worship gatherings feels like a step back toward normalcy. And believe me, I'd be relieved to say, let's just not worry about coronavirus. Let's hug, let the kids play together and take those masks off. Let's just sing and let's just be normal. But COVID-19 is still our reality. Just because we're allowed to gather doesn't mean coronavirus is gone. And it doesn't mean we don't have a responsibility to each other and to the rest of the world. Social distancing and mask wearing is an act of dying to ourselves in order to both love each other and our neighbor. We're doing something that is uncomfortable for us in order to potentially save the life of someone in a more vulnerable position than we are, someone who has a pre-existing condition, or someone who is elderly, or someone they're seeing that other people it's affecting other races more than it's affecting different races are being affected differently than COVID-19. And so we have a responsibility to other people that are in a more vulnerable position than us to not spread coronavirus. And this is putting our faith into action, like the book of James has been telling us about in the month of May as we've been looking at it. And James has challenged us, do we really believe in a king who gave up heaven to save us? If that's the gospel we believe, if we really believe that, if that's what we really say we have faith in, then this sacrifice of social distancing and wearing masks only makes sense. And we can do it with joy because we're showing each other and we're showing the world the self-sacrificing love of our God. We're putting it on full display. And you may be wondering, well, what if it rains? What are we going to do? If it rains, we won't meet in person, but we'll do something else. We can't crowd in a house and practice social distancing and all that. So we'll probably do a worship at home guide. And you may also be wondering, well, what if I'm not comfortable in meeting in person yet? Well, we're going to set up a video option for you to watch the service from home, and so you can be looking for that. And I'm excited about all this, and I hope you are too. And I know it's going to look a little bit different with social distancing and masks and meeting outside. But those things can just be reminders that as Christ's disciples, we love other people more than ourselves. And it can be reminders that, we aren't defined by those particular practices. We aren't, as God's people, we aren't defined by meeting in specific spots or meeting in specific ways. We're defined by the God that we worship. And now we can show that we worship this God who loved us sacrificially and gave up all the things that he gave up in order to love us by giving up those things and being flexible and giving up things ourselves in order to worship him. And it shows the world that the kind of God that we love and worship by the way that we're willing to worship him in different ways at this time. And so I look forward to worshiping with you all on Sunday and seeing just what this is going to look like moving forward.